Okay, good evening. We're up to share Kuf Dalid, and we're starting on the Mishnah on Kuf Dalid Amid Aleph. Now, you know that there's a accompanying Nesachim, and the amounts are Chatziahin for a bull, Shlisha Sahin for an ayil, and Reviya Sahin for a keves. Now, a loig is 12 loigin. So you have a hin, excuse me, 12 hin to a loig. And so Mamela Chatziahin is 6. Reviya Sahin is 3, and Shlish Sahin is 4. So says the Mishnah, Ein misnabim loig shnayim. You can't be misnadig a loig of shnayim because it doesn't exist. The chamisha, nor chamisha. The half meter Gemara now is 5 also doesn't exist. I have a 3, I have a 4, and I have a 6, I don't have a 5. We'll see the Gemara changes. Av misnadei shloisha, which is for the amount for a sheep, if it was accompanying a carbon. V'arba ayil, accompanying a carbon. V'shisha, and accompanying a par. Umeshisha lamayla, different variations will be able to go ahead and figure out how much to give. So let's see Rashi. Emes nadim loig, yayin l'nislay. Shalem etzinu minchas tesachim shaloig, v'leishnayim v'lechamisha. Al misnadim shloisha, dechasi l'kevesh. V'arba la'ayil. Di shlish sahin, v'shisha, dechasi l'par. Umishisha l'mayla. The sheva, if you have the number 7, chasi gimel minayu l'keves. Out of the 7, 3 would be for a sheep. V'dalad la'ayil, and the other 4 for an ayil. Ushmayna chasi the shnei elim, 4 and 4. Tisha would be lepar v'keves, a 6 and a 3. Asara havi lepar v'ayil, a 6 and a 4. And you'd aleph chasi the shnei elim v'keves v'kem elim, and you'd have 2 elim, which is 8. V'keves is 3, a total of 11, and so on and so forth. Fred Gemara Shayla Iboilu Yesh Kevlin Nesachim or Ein Kevlin Nesachim. When you bring if you go ahead and say an amount, there's a keva, there's a set amount, and you can't. If you can bring it at that time, you bring it. If not, not. Or Ein Kevlin Nesachim. So not meaning you could bring a certain amount and leave over. So example 5 would be a classic example. If Ein Kevlin Nesachim, you have no option. If you have Yesh Kevlin Nesachim, you have no option because there's no such thing as a 5. But if ain't kevin l'sachim, you could bring 4 for an ayah, leave over to 1, and attach that to something else. So yiboilu yesh kevin l'sachim, ain't kevin l'sachim. Hechidami, keep going. Daisi chamisha. Iyam ain't kevin l'sachim. Mashach hamaker barba min ayil lechazi la'ayil. Take out of the 5, take 4. That's right for a ram. V'idach, and the extraneous one, hat min adava. V'yamid yesh kevin l'sachim. You won't be able to bring 5 until memali lahu you bring another 1, it'll be 6. In other words, you won't be able to bring it 5. Mai. Amar Rabbi Toshma, Shishal in the Dava, a person Aminon, Keneged me, Keneged Moisachatos. Now what are we going on? There were 13 pushkas in the Beis HaMikdash that were used for different things. Tikkun Chadatin, Nushkolim, Tikkun Atid, and Lias Shkolim, and there were 7, and that the remaining 6 were used for Kitzla Mizbeach. When the Mizbeach was slow, and it would be not nice to have the Mizbeach not being busy, they brought Kabbanas Lishna Lekitza Mizbeach, like the dessert of the Mizbeach. These were oilus Nadava, and they were bought from extraneous funds, and we had 6 pushkis that were used for these. And the Gemara will go ahead and enumerate 6. The Gemara's kasha is going to be, if you shaykh moiser in the Sachim, because ain't kevel in the Sachim, and therefore you have a 5, you bring 4 as an ayil, we should have a shayfa for that 1. That's going to be the Gemara's kasha. Says the Gemara, Tashma, Shishal in the Dava, we have 6 in the Dava, Vaminon Keneged me. These 6 pushkas are Keneged what? Keneged Moisa Chatos. Let's say a person goes ahead and is separated money for Chatos and went down in price, so he had extra money. Moisa Shamos, Moisha Azam Nazir, which is not included in regular Shamos because it's only to go ahead that it's a Nazir becomes Tameh and he has to restart his count, so it's not Baklau, the Kapara of Hashem Ilas, Hashem Gzelas, Hashem Charufa. Umaysa Hashem Mitzayr, which is also allowed to come back into the Machne. Umaysa Kinim left the money for birds. Umaysa Minchas Chayta. V'im Yisya, and if it's true that what? That ain't Kevin in the Sachim, and the Shaykh Lahav, Maisa Nisachim, we talk in Shayfa Achrina Keneged Maisa Nisachim, and you don't. So it must be that what? Ain't Kevin, Yesh Kevin in the Sachim, and therefore you'll never have any left over. Says Gemara, no. Hanech l'nedavich tziba asli. Right? Those goes l'danos tzibur. In other words, when things are slow, we're going to bring them. So that's not all the time. Most of the time, this Be'ech's very busy. So we have a period of time for funds to accrue to go ahead and bring for the time is Nebecha slow. Mashemenach Hanim the Sachim Shchichi all the time. So Efshad Mitztarfe Demaru Demar Bahadi Adadi. So Vikarve. Therefore, it's not necessary. It's not pshat that yesh kevin the Sachim and you won't have any extra. You will have extra. You'll have extra. Why don't you go ahead and set aside a plishka for it? It's not necessary. Practically, there's always the sachim every day, and therefore we'll be able to go ahead and attach it to one of them. Mashen kain moiser of chatos hashamois is lekisam mizbeach. When times are slow, therefore we have to go ahead, put them in pushkas, let them go ahead and accrue over time. Amarava Tashma. Let's bring a proof to the din of what of the yesh kevin the sachim or ein kevin the sachim. So we want to bring a braya that ain't kevin the sachim. Let's see the raya. Amarava Tashma. Ezrach. The pasuk says, "Kol Ezrach yaseh kocha." All Ezrach, all Yid yaseh kocha should go ahead and bring these denominations for the nesachim. As Elo lahaker visharech nechoch Hashem. This whole pasuk's extra. Rashi brings because you said before, Revi'ah Sahin, Chamish Sahin, Shlish Sahin, Revi'ah Sahin, and Chatzi Ahin. So in Mela, I know the denominations, and Kol Eretz Yisrael Kacha Azoi they should bring. So l'chayra, what's the coming to teach me? Melamed shemisnavim nesachim, that you could bring the sachim. V'kama, and how much do you bring the nesech? Shloish loigin, you bring 3. That's the minimum amount for a sheep. If you want to add on to the 3 Yosef, you can add on to the amount of yayin for the nesachim. Talmud Lema yiyah. Rashi has a machloikis yiyah chatzia hin yiyah lapar. That's one pshat. Another pshat, it says kochem keger yiyah. It says kochem keger yiyah. Pashas Mayadim. So the question is, but Yiyah comes to what? To go ahead and be Mosef. Why does Yiyah come? Yachal Yivchais Tamlai Mekacha. Ma Yosef, Ilay Ma Arba, Vishisha, Maishna Shloisha Dechazi Lekevesh, Abba Vishisha, Nami Chayzel Ayel Upar. In other words, I don't need Yiyah to be Marba something that I know. So the given is 3. I don't need a pasuk to tell me you could bring 4 because that's an ayel. I don't need a pasuk to tell me you can bring 6 because that's for a par. Ella must be to tell me 5. And if you're telling me 5, that means 4 and an additional 1 will be Meiser. So you see, Ein Kevel and Nesachim. Elo Lav Chamisha, the Yiyes come to be Moisef, Lav Dafka 3, but even 5. And Shmamina, Ein Kevel and Nesachim. And Shmamina, you have a good raya, that Ein Kevel and Nesachim. Amar Avashi, Vatanan Loy Tanan Hachi, looking back at our Mishnah, what does it say in our Mishnah? Emis Navin Loig Shnayim V'Chamisha. You can't bring 2 and you can't bring 5. Now, the Havamina in the Gemara is, we know 2 is nothing. Why? Because you need a minimum of 3. And if 2 is nothing, and we're going ahead and saying 5 in the same breath as we're saying 2, just like 2 is nothing, 5 is nothing. And it's mashma, yesh keva nesachim. And what's the answer? 2 is no good at all. 5, lichat chila, we should not bring a 5. Why? Because 4 is good out of the 5, but you would be misnadev 1 as a moiser. And Rashi tells us, as a previous Gemara we saw, a misnadvin lemoisris. Initially, you're not supposed to make an adova for extra. It's supposed to be exact. So lichat chila, you should not go ahead and separate 5. So that's what it means in the Mishnah. 2 you can't, period. 5 lechatchila you shouldn't, because you're going to automatically have 4 and a leftover 1. But bidi evid, if you do it, it's good. Why? Because ein kevel in the sachim. Let's see it inside. Says the Gemara. Elolav chamishu shmamina ein kevel in the sachim shmamina. Amar Ravashi v'anan loy tanan hachi ein misnavin loik shnayim v'chamisha ketani chamisha dumi the shnayim. Let's make we learned them in the same breath. Let's make a comparison between 2 and 5. Ma shnayim loy chazi klal, because it has to be minimal of 3. That appears to me what yesh kevel in the sachim. Says the Gamidi area. What do you hakadis? It's 2 separate dinim. Neither way lechatchili should do 2 or 5. 2 because it doesn't count at all, and 5 because you're separating lemaisris. But b'di'evid, if you do it, ein kevel in the sachim, and you bring a 4 and a 5. Amar Abaya, im tim soloimar ein kevel in the sachim. If you say ein kevel in the sachim, I have no kashas. Because as long as it's not 2, it's anything above, I'll be able to go ahead and bring the right denomination. If there's any moisture left over, it'll be left over. But his shaila is going to be by 11. So it's 11, you can bring 10, you can bring 6 and a 4, right? And so therefore you left over one because ain't kevlin the sachim. That's my shay. That's not my shayla. My shayla is imtim sulema yesh kevlin the sachim. So ad asara pshitali. Until asara, it's pasha to me. I have no problem. You could have guys. Let's say you had a four. So a three is for a kevesh, a four is for an ayel, a five we know that b'di'evet is four and a one. A six is for a par. A seven will be a four and a three, an ayel and a kevesh. An eight will be two alim. A nine will be a six and a three, a par and a kevesh. And a 10 will be what? A par and a ayel, a six and a four. 11, here's my shaila. Is 11 six short six for two partum, and therefore I won't be able to bring the whole thing until I get another leg? Or no, it's two alim, which is eight, and a kevesh, which is three, and the shaila is you're switching from one min to the next. Im timtzaloy yesh kevin l'sachim arasar pshitali, as I just expounded upon. Achad asar amibeis mi boile. But 11 I'm a shaila. My gaver l'shnei parim kom mechavin. Guy is mechavin for two parim, which is a six and a six, a total of 12. Until you get the amount total of 12, you won't be makravit. I'll get the denomination of 11 by Shnei Elim, which is 8, the Kevesh, which is 3, and that's a total of 11. Kamachavin, Trey Michadmina, Michadmina Amina. We say 2 of one and 1 of the other, 2 grams in 1 sheet, we say. Allah or not, we say 2 parim, the West says Teku, I don't know the answer. Okay, so we know you can make an adava of yayin. The next Mishnah is about an adava of shemen. What's the din of an adava of shemen? Can you go ahead and bring a mincha shemen? So says the Mishnah, misnadev yayin, as we know, they misnadev shemen, but you can't bring an adava of shemen. The person says harei alai shemen. It's not going. You can't. It's a mincha. There's a mincha, but there's no mincha shemen. Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Tarfinoim misnadev shemen. You could make an adava of shemen. Says Rashi, what does it mean misnadev shemen? The kointzoi, you do a kamitza, umakdir, and you burn the koimitz that you have in your hands. V'sharin and nechalim and all the rest, v'shayov and the nechalim will be eaten. So to me, it was bothering me. How does Rashi know there's a kamitza by shemen with no kamitza by yayin? Maybe shemen also you throw down the chute. So I recall there's a toisus, guys, on ayin dalit amid base. It's a small toisus, but it explains a lot. Ayin dalit amid base. Says Toises, Dibra Matzkel Koinsoy V'Shiyarov Ne'acholin. You do a kmitza on the shemen, and it's left over, its remnants are eaten by the kahanim. Avol yayin solol. Yayin is clear. It's very, very liquidy. The efshel lekoinsoy, and therefore it's not possible to do a kmitza. Hesis, the normal is, these are all menachos. Minchas nesachim, minchas shemen. All minchas really require a kmitza. And really, yayin also should require a kamitza. However, since yayin is soul, it's so clear, I can't do it. Masha'en kain shemen, which is more viscous, it has more liquid to it, more substance, more body to it. Therefore, I would think you know how the actual practical way of doing it was doing a kamitza. You would be able to fill that kaimitz in this area, and then go ahead and eat. So therefore, light Rebbe Kiva, no, light Reb Tarfin, yes, and light Reb Tarfin, the attack will be a kamitza, and we'll see tomorrow in Achinami that the loch is like Reb Tarfin in tomorrow's share. Says the Gemara Vaita. Omer of Tarfin, I'll tell you how I know that it's shaykh to make a nedava of shemen. Mamad seen biyayin shuba chayva uba nedava. It comes as a chayva and a nedava. You can make a nedava of yayin. Av shemen shuba chayva. It comes as a chayva. It comes as every korban and mincha. But and bab nedava. Amaloi Rebbe Kiva. Lo yamam biyayin shekain korban chavas levnei atzmai. Shemen yayin's always alone. Even when it's accompanied with its korban, it's always alone. You never bring it exactly in sport at the same time. What doesn't have to be, but usually it is, but it's a separate entity. Yeah. Mashenkin, the mincha, the shemen is part of flour. It's never separate. That's what Rabbi Kiva says. What are you going to say? Lo yamar b'yayin shekin korav m'chavasla mifnei atzmai. Toima b'shemen shein korav m'chavasla mifnei atzmai. It's not. It's always brought in conjunction with, not conjunction with, mixed with flour. Okay. A final halacha. Ein shnayim misnabim isarein. A mincha cannot be brought by partners. A mincha can't be brought echad. Partners can be in oila, shlam, shlam, oif, but feel prayed even one bird, achas, you can have a partnership with. So there's a din, a separate din that we conclude that in Masechta Menachos that it can't be brought what the shortfist, and we'll see why. Says the Gemara, Amarava. B'divrei shneim nilmat, from the birds of both the words of Rabbi Akiva And Rabbi Tarfin, we learn, a person is able to go ahead and make an adava every day. So says Rav Shita, why not? So Madatema, Minchas Nadava Goli Barachmana. The Torah says there's such thing as a Minchas Nadava, and the Torah never tells us Nisachim, it's a limud, but we have what? Minchas Nadava is Hani Chamishim Menachos. It's the Minchas Soilis, the Minchas Machvas, the Minchas Macheshes, and the Shnei Afei Saner, the Urikikim Mechalois, in Tfeiloi, Kamash Malon, Hani Mili B'Stama. That's if you say Stama Minchas Nadava. Aval Hecha de Parish, if you go ahead and expound and explain, no, I want to bring Minchas Nisachim, Parish, it's permitted. Ein Shnayim Misnadvim, we said that two people can be Misnadevei Mincha. My time, what's the reason? Ilem Mishim Dechsiv Takriv, the Pasuk says, V'nefesh ki sakriv korban mincha la Hashem, right? Soilis yeh korbanecha, so it says sakriv, you should bring mashma one, oila nami ksiv yakriv, im oila korbanoi min abaka, zocha tamim yakivenu, pesach al-meri yakriv. And we know in oil you could bring b'shuftis. So the lashon of Yaakov is not used to tell me partnership. So who went in by mincha? The lashon of takriv is not going to go ahead and teach me a partnership. Elo oila my time. What's the reason? Your oilos mashma in conjunction with another. Says the Gemara. If that's the case, mincha nami hakasiv lemincha seichem in the same parsha. It says lemincha seichem. Elu tasu lashem moedechem. Levad minidrechem minivosechem lelosechem minchosechem. So it says the same way. So if that's your source for an oil partnership, you should have a source for what? For a mincha partnership. El mishum nesiv nefesh. Benefesh ki sakav korban mincha Hashem. The word nefesh tells me that what? Only one individual. How do you know that? It says Taisis. Manishtanish never be nefesh. Di mishum de'ein bo b'shutfis havilei lemichtav ish or lashon acher the mashma yochid like the dafka. So manishtanish never be nefesh. We're asking a different question. I'm sorry, I jumped the gun on Taisis. Tanya nami hachi. Rabbi Oimer. Asher Yakriv Karbano l'chol Dreim b'chol Nidvaisam Asher Yakriv l'Hashem Hakol Boim b'Shufis. Every carbon can be bought b'Shufis. Loisolik Hakosav Ela Mincha. The Torah only removes Mincha b'Shufis. Shnemar Nefesh. Amar Yitzchak Miman Ishtanen Mincha Shnem b'Nefesh. Amakadosh Baruch Hu Mi Darku Lehevi Minchas Ani Mala Ani Mincha Kama Ani Mala Ani Allah V'Kosav Hikriv Nafshay L'Fanai. Rashi Manishtana Taisus Shnem b'Nefesh. Maybe nefesh has come to teach me, doesn't come b'shufis, because the mashma one. How do you know it's coming to teach me what? On ani, says the Gemara, because if it just wanted to tell me it's not what b'shufis, it could have said lashon of ish, which is singular, right? Or lashon acher, the mashma yochid dafka. Why do you use the nefesh? To tell me that who's going to go ahead and bring a carbon? Someone who is so poor, but he wants to go ahead and do something with Kadosh Baruch Hu. He wants to solidify that special relationship. Kadosh Baruch Hu, I want to bring myself to you, but you don't allow me. I would love to bring a living thing, but I can't afford to go ahead and bring a carbon. So what will I do? I'll bring something that has a life cycle, something that grows from the ground. And that's why I'm giving it to you, and as if I'm giving my nefesh in front of you. It says that Kadosh Baruch Hu, I consider it in front of me as if he's makav his nefesh. I'm Rabbi Yitzchak. Manishtana mincha shnema b'chamisha mini tigun. It says 5 types of tigun. Now, really, it's not 5 types of tigun. The only tigun we have is macheshes, machvas, afesaner. Silas is not. So you look about in places. The next places. Chamisha mini tigun. Lehoyim etagei mincha silas. Right? Me'afe taner. Ela minchas machvas macheshes l'chudayo. Ela koyre tigun mashiyesh b'kula shemen. It has shemen in it. Since there's shemen in it, therefore what? Mashal Melech, Basav Adam, Shasloi Oyav Suda. And the Melech knows that the guy's an Ani. So the Melech he's not thinking about cowboy steaks. He's not thinking about tomahawk steaks. He's not thinking about rib roast. He's not thinking about duck. He's not thinking about all the luxurious items that are available. You know what? I'm coming for a Suda. Make me a pizza. And obviously not a pizza, but similar something simple like that. That's not such a big thing, and therefore make me a kugel, a fried kugel, right, made of flour, and that's going to be good. Thank you for listening.